Stardew Valley is a chill, low-stress farming game that aims to have players relax as they spend hours just watering crops, taking care of cows, meeting new friends, and hopefully one day building a family. But that sounds fucking boring. If I wanted to go and relax, I'd go cover my toes in peanut butter and drive to the dog park. No, video games should be stressful and competitive. Which is why I decided to take the most stressful part of the most relaxing game in the world and turn it into a contest to see who could not enjoy this serene game the most. Any casual player of Stardew Valley will agree that the hardest part of the game is fishing, but after fishing, it's the mines. And the only thing more stressful than the mines is the harder version they stuck in the desert. That's why I decided to host a Skull Caverns competition, a race to see who could make it the furthest in this ever-growing pit of pain. If you don't know, Skeleton Caverns is just like the normal Stardew Valley mines, except this one has no end. It continues on its procedurally generated way for all of infinity, where you can find some cool clickbait YouTube thumbnails at least. And this was probably one of the largest Stardew tournaments to happen amongst the community. Tons of people submitted their runs. Huge Stardew Valley content creators even tried it out, and someone spent 300 hours on preparing their setup. And all that for the difference between first and second place to be just one single floor. But let's take it back. What exactly was this competition? The challenge I proposed was to get down as far as possible in Skull Caverns in one single day of Stardew. Whoever's on the lowest floor would win 200 bucks. That's it. I gave everyone a custom save file to play on where they got access to some resources like a pickaxe, bombs, explosive ammo, weapons, some staircases, etc. Pretty simple, right? Well, not quite. There was a small twist I added. My favorite part of Stardew is always watching how people are able to min-max the day. I always love seeing how much value you could get out of the in-game timer. So I decided to add another factor to the rule set. I added the twist that you would have a full day to prep beforehand. An entire day to spend however you see best. You could go and get stone to craft into staircases, or get some bombs, or maybe pick up some food and buffs. The world is truly your oyster. This opened up a huge amount of possibilities for so many people, with tons of routes forming straight from the get-go. Today, I'm going to walk you through the top 2 to 3 runs on how these crazy speedrunners rip my save file apart to try to get the world's most optimal run. Also, there were some rules to try and prevent people from relying on similar methods to how they usually play. The basics you need to know are, on day 1 you prep, on day 2 you must enter the caverns. No glitches or exploits, no gambling, and no saloon or dwarf. So with all that out of the way, let's hop into the most stressful day of the world's chillest game. The first thing I saw across every single run was to check the mailbox. Now, what could possibly be so important in this little box of letters, you ask? Well, the save file I created is on year 2 fall, so there are lots of letters to read through. But while this ugly little farmer doesn't have a lot of friends in the valley, there are 2 people he managed to befriend to 10 hearts. The Wizard and Robin. Kind of an eclectic choice. I chose these 2 as they give the most interesting gifts in the mail, and I thought it'd be a cute little Easter egg if someone happened to check the mailbox. Little did I know, these envelopes would only serve to torment and tease the player. See, gifts in Stardew Valley are actually random every time you open them, as opposed to being predetermined when they're sent. Say you open up your mail and the wizard has sent you a purple mushroom. Well, if you reset the day, there's no guarantee he sends you a purple mushroom again. It's entirely likely that you'll instead receive a jade or a fire quartz instead. So while I included these gifts to be a fun little Easter egg for dedicated players, it ended up just becoming a huge thorn in everyone's sides. Each time they reset their first day, which for most people was upwards of 80 or 90 times, they were forced to sift through hundreds and hundreds of letters, clinging on to the hope that they'll receive a single piece of jade from the wizard. Now, the reason that the speedrunners want jade is because on Sunday, which is today, it can be traded for free staircases in the desert. In the mailbox sits 3 different letters from the wizard. And since it's the first thing you do in the run, the urge to reset until you get 3 jades is extremely high. Now, you might be thinking it's only 3 extra floors, how much could that help? And while seeing as the winning player only won by a single floor, it could be very important. From there, the top runners would approach a chest that I had hidden behind the house. I tried to make this one pretty obvious just to give the players a tip-off that there are hidden secrets on this map. Inside the chest sat 2 items, 5 bean hot pots and a pirate's locket. And you'll never guess which one of these items is the most useful. Guesses in? Yeah, it's the chest. I'll explain why in a minute. After picking up the chest, usually players would then pass by the furnaces placed next to them on the farmhouse and pick those up. Now, the furnaces in pretty much every single run I saw were absolutely crucial, and that's really for just one reason: explosive ammo. If you're not aware, the slingshot with explosive ammo is far and away the best mining tool that exists in Stardew Valley. The fact that it allows you to blow up huge groups of rocks instantly, and you can shoot from far away, makes this easily able to shred through any of the rocks in the game. Knowing this would be such an important part of people's runs, I pulled a classic tricky little Shawnee move. You can't purchase or craft explosive ammo until you get combat level 8, which is exactly why I set the character at combat level 7, meaning you'll have to get an entire level up in the following day. We'll touch on how people were actually able to achieve this later, but for now, just remember that everyone's playing for the ammo. The recipe for explosive ammo is 1 iron bar and 2 pieces of coal. So using these furnaces to process as much iron as possible is going to be extremely important. This is why a lot of the run is timed around changing out the furnaces as quickly as you possibly can. Since the file only has 5 furnaces, there's a very limited amount of time for you to maximize your iron gain. Now you're probably thinking, hey Shawnee, if these furnaces are so important, why don't they just craft more of them? Well, what an excellent question, dear viewer. The answer is, I am an idiot. Basically, when I was generating the save file for this challenge, like the dirty, law-breaking little gremlin I am, I used cheats. Yes, I know, I'm sorry. When I set up this corner next to the farmhouse, I put down some furnaces, as I knew they'd be important to the run. However, what I forgot is to get the recipe for the furnace, you need to pick up a single piece of copper ore, and then let Clint come with the blueprints the following day. And since this was all cheated in, I had never picked up a piece of copper, completely locking people out of the furnace recipe on their day of prep. This was a complete oversight on my part, and I honestly feel really bad about forgetting it. But don't you worry, many of the people who submitted their runs were sure to remind me of the lack of furnace recipe, so I'll be certain to remember it next time. Next up are the 2 chests that I placed all the starting supplies in. Inside of the 2 chests, I put all of the iridium tools, some rings, and a couple bombs and staircases to get started with. The chests here are the new 1.5 stone chest, and I use them because I think they look pretty. But little did I know these chests would actually prove invaluable to players, to the point where people crafted their own wooden chests to replace the contents with so they could pick up the stone ones. This is because of the next important machine I gave players access to, the Deconstructor. If you don't know, the Deconstructor was a machine added in the 1.5 update of Stardew Valley. They're super rare machines that can process items down into their crafted materials. So if you're to put a wooden fence in there, in 1 hour the Deconstructor would pop you out 2 pieces of wood. These machines were also heavily routed out since there's only so few constructors. At this point, most people threw the 3 stone chests I had given them into the Deconstructor and kept moving on. Next, they head south to Cindersap Forest and approached the second hidden chest. Well, first real hidden chest. The first one was kind of a gimme. Inside this one lay 5 spicy eel, making this one of the most important chests in the entire run. As in a day with extremely limited setup time, it's important to move fast, and the +1 speed you get from the eel will be super valuable, especially since you're not allowed to just buy coffee from Gus. Now it was time to head to the sewers. Why, you might ask? Well, because I hid the best secret of the entire run down here. Way in the back of the mutant bug lair, which you probably even forgot existed, I've hidden 15 crystallariums loaded up with jade. And since this jade can be traded for staircases, this is a huge pickup. If you loot them, then break each crystallarium, you can get 30 jade. 30 floors in a challenge like this is monumental, but what's even cooler is having the crystallariums themselves. After warping back to the farm, the crystallariums are then placed into the deconstructors. These give 2 iridium bars when deconstructed, which will prove extremely important later on. While those deconstruct, we're going to make our way to the mines. After picking up some new boots, we go and grab the key from the bottom of the mines. I actually had a ton of people reach out and message me with a nearly perfect day 1, but they forgot to pick up the skull key the day before and were locked out of the caverns. Whoopsie. After that brief stop, we head over to the museum and grab perhaps the most important item of this entire run, the magic rock candy. If you don't know, the magic rock candy is the best food in all of Stardew, offering buffs to nearly every single stat, including speed and luck. This is the ideal food for tomorrow's Skull Caverns Day. However, this item is obviously very rare because of how good it is. Luckily, I had gone ahead and donated 90 items to the museum so that you could come by and pick one up for yourself. But you know what's even rarer than magic rock candy? Finding a university that gives you the knowledge and experience to create your own video games and turn that into an actual career with opportunities for growth. And there's no better place to gain that knowledge than the Southern New Hampshire University, the sponsor of today's video. SNHU is one of the largest accredited non-profit online degrees in the country, and recently they've expanded their game development program to be one of the premier destinations to study game design. This program teaches you everything you need to know about how to create real games. From programming game AIs, game physics, spreading out 2D and 3D graphics, SNHU has got you covered. Not to mention all of their classes on C++, C#, and Java. And all of the courses are taught by professors with real game experience, so you'll be getting the freshest knowledge on how to make your game succeed. If you're interested in learning more, you can request a completely free information brief from SNHU using my link, snhu.edu/ShawneeDo. It's completely free and can help you decide if a career in game design is right for you. That's snhu.edu/ShawneeDo. And thanks to SNHU for sponsoring today's video. You warp back to the farm and throw some more crystallariums into a deconstructor, and then go to the secret forest to pick up a chest I hid with some explosive ammo and some food. Also, around this point, a lot of people decided to do something that I consider truly unforgivable. Apparently, a lot of people were not super pleased by the way I designed the character for this run, which is just an alternate version of my own skin, which kind of is a stab to the heart. People hated this guy so much that a lot of runners took all the time to walk all the way to the wizard's hut, pay the 500G just to change their appearance. Do you know how insulting that is? That in a speed run, people are willing to lose minutes of precious time off their runs just so they don't have to look like you. Do you know how that makes me feel? If you did decide to go to the Wizard's Tower though, this was a great time for people to grab the 15 diamonds I hid away in the witch's hut. I included these so that if you wanted to take the time to deliver the pirate's locket to Birdie, you'd easily be able to craft 15 pieces of fairy dust. But no one did that, because no one wanted to go all the way to Ginger Island. Everyone just sold the diamonds. Except Floydson. Floydson made the journey out there. Shout out my man Floyd. Placed horribly, but you know, he put a smile on my face. With pretty much all the chests open and shops quickly closing, the big tasks of the day had been taken care of, and now it was time to just start grinding. Pretty much everyone at this point went down to the mines. However, what people were mining for was pretty different. A lot of the people who placed lower tended to try and grind out stone here to be crafted into staircases for the following day. However, most high-ranked players tended to head to floor 40 to repeatedly reset for iron. This was to build up crafting materials for the aforementioned explosive ammo. Even stranger, by using a predictor, a couple players decided to magma geode farm here for cash. Dude, I don't know what. I'm not even gonna look at this blade run. This makes no sense. No matter what you did, at around 3:30, most people left to go hit up Pelican Town. This was to catch all the shops before they closed for the day. You see, by selling all of the iridium we had gathered by deconstructing the crystallariums, along with several other odds and ends items, people were able to get around 30,000 G, with the top player even getting a full 50,000. Now, with all this money, what do you expect people to go buy? You might think, oh, well, maybe some ore, or how about some food? Well, you'd be wrong. Do you want to know what the most popular choice to spend all of this hard-earned money on was? Spinners. Did you forget that these things existed? Because I definitely did. Who even remembers the spinners? I don't think I've bought a single one in my 1,000 hours of Stardew. And yet people were buying 2 to 3 chests worth of them. That's more than 50 spinners. Now, if you're a rational human being, your mind is probably wondering, spinners? Why? What could be so important about increasing your fish bite rate? Well, it's actually not because of that. In fact, I don't think a single player touched the fishing rod the entire run. It's because spinners, when deconstructed, can be turned into 2 iron bars, which can then be turned into more explosive ammo. And this is doubly good as they turn to iron bars and not ores, so they don't have to be placed in the already limited number of furnaces. After buying the spinners, the sun was setting and nearly everything started closing. With 5 o'clock quickly approaching, nearly every single player did the same thing at this point. They headed to Skull Caverns. Now, it might seem weird to go to Skull Caverns today, when the day of the challenge isn't until tomorrow, but the caverns are a great way to grind out the 3 most important resources: stone, coal, and iron ore. Also, heading to the desert is necessary in trading all of our precious jade into staircases, so it just doubly makes sense. Despite the day being nearly over, this was by far the longest part of the runs in terms of actual time. Most people set up a home base in the entryway to the caverns with their chests, furnaces, and deconstructors. Then they would go down a floor, pause, take a screenshot, look to see if there are any worthwhile resources worth going for, and then either go for them or decide it wasn't worth it and reset the floor. Players did this for hours and hours on end, just checking floors for goodies and placing spinners into deconstructors. In fact, some players even went so far so as to check their step total at the casino to see if they could manipulate it into being a max luck day tomorrow. Why this is because of a whole complicated thing that I won't explain to you, but all you need to know is it works because it works. After players would check their step count, it meant they couldn't take a single step for hours. So they would pause their menu every single time they were in the middle of a step. Over and over and over again. These people are insane. This went on for a really long time as everyone tried to desperately wring out as many resources as they possibly could. Most people needed to attempt the beginning of this run tens of hundreds of times. So if they made it this far, they were determined to squeeze every last resource out of these final hours. And after in-game hours and real-life years of checking skeleton cavern floors, it turned 2 a.m. and the time for prepping was over. On to execution day. After hours and hours of prep, everything came down to this one day. A single day of time of Stardew. No pause buffering, no predicting, no nothing. Just pure, straight skill. And while the top 40% of players had nearly identical prep, the difference in these 21 minutes led to staggeringly different results. Many players did absolutely amazing, like Piano Addict, who reset for hours to get to floor 388, or Floydson and Blade having an exact tie for 5th place at 391, or my very own editor placing in 3rd with a whopping 460 floors. Feel free to pat yourself on the back here, Ray. However, despite all this, 2 runners came out leagues ahead of all the others. Cordite and TheHaboo, 2 of the biggest pros in the Stardew Valley scene, both of them having reset for hours on my challenge, and in the end, they finished with a 1 floor difference between the 2 of them. Cordite and TheHaboo have spent most of Stardew Valley's history at the top of the leaderboards. TheHaboo as the top speedrunner, having the record in many different runs, most notably the world record for the community center completion run, and Cordite at the top of the min-max category, with a record of having 80 million gold in hand in the first year of Stardew Valley. 2 titans of the Stardew Valley scene pit against each other. They couldn't be more different in their approach. But who will reign victorious? Unshockingly, Cordite had the better prep day due to all of his experience min-maxing in the past. In fact, he even prepared a super secret weapon to give the edge against every other contestant. A magic rock candy. But not like the one that we were talking about before. This is a different one. I realized that it doesn't really sound as cool because we were already talking about it. It's another magic rock candy, okay? Now, like I said before, everyone gets access to the magic rock candy from the museum rewards, but one magic rock candy only lasts 8 minutes, when a day is more than double that. So if you get a second magic rock candy, you would be able to have those buffs for the entire day almost. But where could you get a magic rock candy on a Sunday? Well, due to the date and time of the year, there's actually only one way to obtain a magic rock candy, and that's by smashing some skulls. These skulls that only spawn in the depths of the quarry mine, I know when's the last time you heard somebody talk about that place, will drop a magic rock candy at 0.13% odds. That's 0.13 odds. But despite the exceedingly low chances, Cordite decided to go on the grind and get that second magic rock candy. With a grind like this, you'd want to put the impossible grindy part at the beginning of your day. That way, if you fail it, you could just reset the day with only a couple seconds lost. This was not the case for Cordite. He wanted to get it while still being as efficient as possible. That means he doesn't even roll for the magic rock candy until 10:40 that day. Meaning every single time he resets and kills those skulls, if they don't drop the magic rock candy, he has to play the entire day over again. Each reset would cost him around 12 minutes, as most of these runs are spent paused. Cordite said this took him 17 hours of grinding. It makes me feel like maybe I should add a higher prize pool for this event. After his 17 hours of grinding, he was finally gifted the Blessed Run, and his second magic rock candy was in his clutches. But while Cordite is the master of prep, HABoo is the master of the execution. Took everything in my power not to say the master of baiting there, but I digress. HABoo specializes in speedruns, so while he didn't come as equipped as Cordite, doing a lot in a short time is kinda his thing. It's the battle of concepts, but who will come out on top? I added a rule to the caving day that says that all runs must be done in 21 minutes, and the in-game clock doesn't matter. This is because I'm some sort of sicko and I didn't want to sit through 13 hours of riveting footage like this. So these runs would be done in real time, head to head. No pausing, no breaks, just pure straight skeleton caverns. Both of their runs start the exact same way, by using the desert warp totem to go straight to the desert and then head down into the caverns below. As they both head down, HABoo and Cord are neck and neck, taking floors at nearly the exact same pace. And though they're progressing at the same speed, you can tell the pressure is weighing down like a ton of bricks on top of Cordite. In the first few minutes of the run, he accidentally uses 3 staircases on the same floor while trying to place one, lowering his already extremely limited resource. Despite this though, Cordite comes out ahead with an early lead, around 12 floors in front of HABoo. You'll see through these runs, they both have the exact same approach to floors. They'll enter a floor and immediately shoot off a couple rounds of explosive ammo. If they find a staircase, they'll go down it, and if not, they'll just place a staircase themselves. This is so they aren't wasting time shooting ammo at smaller rock clumps. Their real goal, however, is to get a shaft. A shaft has the chance to drop you anywhere between 3 and 15 whole levels down from your current level. These shafts are prioritized over everything else and are the main thing that you're looking for. With Cordite strongly ahead, HABoo managed to get a string of really good shafts and ends up catching right back up with him. Then they're neck and neck, once again going down floors at the exact same pace. Every time it seems like one is going to get the lead on the other will get a shaft and easily catch right back up. They go on like this for the next good chunk of the run, until Cordite has an insane streak of luck. Shaft into an 11 floor shaft. And just like that, Cordite was sitting a full 20 floors ahead of HABoo. Though somehow through his own pure skill, in just 2 minutes, HABoo catches up with him. And HABoo even passes Cordite by 10 floors. We've only got half the day left now, and it's up to Cordite to close this gap that HABoo has put between them. Which is when Cordite manages to get the elusive 15 floor shaft. That's the highest shaft you could possibly get, and it's extremely rare. This leads to a very long period where the two are exactly neck and neck. Like 7 minutes of them just being on the exact same floor. These 7 minutes couldn't be tenser as the two stayed tied together. But then, over time, HABoo manages to inch out ahead. First, taking 1 floor. Then, 5 floors. Then, 10 floors. 20 floors! With just 2 minutes left on the clock, HABoo is sitting a full 30 floors ahead of Cordite. This is the largest gap we've seen between the two's floor counts all day. And Cordite can't help but keep making mistakes. He keeps placing 2 ladders down instead of 1, costing him entire floors every time he does. But despite all of his errors, Cordite pulls himself together to have the most insane and impressive next minute of his Stardew career. In just 1 short, intense minute, Cordite closes the gap between them, only lagging 2 to 3 floors behind, closing a 30-floor gap in just a matter of seconds, charging into the final minute of the run. They continue traversing down. By now, both of them are completely out of staircases, with only single digits amount of explosive ammo remaining. 10 seconds left on the clock, and Cordite is but a single floor behind HABoo. His chance to spring ahead is now! He still holds a single piece of explosive ammo with him, while HABoo is completely out of his. HABoo is forced to start just whacking things with his pickaxe. This is Cordite's chance! Cordite puts pedal to metal and... HABoo finished on floor 550, Cordite 549. Despite his best efforts, his month of grinding, his secret magic rock candy, it still wasn't enough to take down the mighty HABoo. Both players put up an absolutely insane fight, but HABoo is just too comfortable with that timer ticking down. There's a reason he's yet to lose a single Stardew Valley competition. So many hours of research, speedruns, and days without leaving his, I can only imagine, very smelly basement have led to HABoo becoming the best Stardew Valley player of all time. So I am honored to crown him as the champion of the first annual Shawnee Doo's Skeleton Caverns competition. Wait, what?